our procurement futurists. It's just wonderful to be here on stage with you today. And I'm so excited to share with you some of my favorite topics on behalf of the ISM Thought Leadership Council today. But most importantly, you're listening to one of my favorite songs, favorite music from a very famous orchestra. But it's not just any orchestra, it's the Procurement Orchestra. So I wanted all of us to take a moment to visualize what the future of procurement could be all about. We've been having so much thought leadership throughout the day, and this is the moment to just take everything in that we just learned and really visualize what we, as the conductors of our own orchestra, can accomplish. So, before I actually start with my presentation today, I wanted all of us to just reflect back in the history of procurement where it all began. 3,000 years before Christ, when the workers were carrying the stones to build the pyramids in Egypt. And you had the Egyptians pulling up the scripts and writing down all the inventory and the resources and the time management, project management plan, and you name it, in order to build these beautiful pyramids that we have today. And the role of procurement actually just became a role recognized in the late 1800s. And from then, the procurement revolution truly began. So since then, the role of procurement has been forming. It's really up to us to make the future happen. And I wanted just to recognize that all of us, procurement professionals, we are the conductors of our own orchestra. We sit in the driver's seat. We have our internal stakeholders, our team members, our violinists from the orchestra who we collaborate with, who help us to achieve the goals we desire to achieve. And then we have our external stakeholders, the drums in the back, the trumpets, the cello, which I already heard in the networking. And these are the external parts. So it's all about the communication, understanding what our external parties say, recognizing the trends, how we then need to react, being the conductor of that beautiful orchestra. And in a way, shaping the future of procurement, keeping that umbrella to initiate certain initiatives, supply sustainability programs, supply diversity and inclusion programs, and you name it. So this is really where the journey begins. So we've come really a long way. And the fourth industrial revolution is really a way to describe all these blurring boundaries between the physical, the digital, and the biological worlds. And its fusion in technology advancement. It's really all about what we've been seriously listening to throughout the day, the formation of AI, digital technologies. I mean, I just also heard the new forms of augmented digital technology of the future, 3D printing, quantum computing, and really you name it. So before I start, I wanted to just share with you the amount of data that is actually coming, that we are dealing with on a daily basis. And it's all about managing all of that data flood in all ways. And this is just an interesting statistic for you from a global standpoint, what is waiting for us in the future. And we're actually talking about 175 zettabytes of data. So how are we, as procurement professionals, as supply management professionals, managing that data, but most importantly, keeping it safe, having clean data, risk mitigation, what we just heard about. And at the end, data is king. So this is actually really interesting that because it's being said that just within the next years, if you calculate all that data that we are accumulating, and if you download it onto the normal DVD, CD discs, 25 gigabytes, and you just stack them on top of each other, we would have 23 towers of DVDs from the Earth to the Moon. altogether, we're talking about 7 trillion DVDs of data. So what I wanted to share is just some of the supply chain management processes that we are all working with. And I mean, us as supply chain professionals with all this data, looking at the future of the process. Currently, as you can see on the wall, our process is made out of 38 different end-to-end supply chain tasks. And this is really where we currently have an input. You can just visualize. I mean, it's just the whole analysis, the selection process, the procurement, demand planning, delivery, and then, of course, the settlement. So we still have a lot of human tasks involved in our daily work. But let's look at the future. And by 2030, it's being said that from these 38 tasks, through technology, only 7 tasks will actually require human labor. So you can see that the human interaction, it will be replaced by technologies, and we will be able to focus more on more strategic topics and really thinking about our contribution to the future of our profession. And that's just from CAP's research. So if we have not realized before, we surely have now after COVID, that we are living in a worldwide web of supply chains. All these supply chains being kind of interrelated, and we've seen that we first have to understand this supply chain ecosystem. We need to understand who are our internal stakeholders, who are the external stakeholders. We need to understand all of the activities that we just saw in the previous slide. We need to understand the information flow which goes from inside the organization, outside of the organization. And by having that overall knowledge, we will then be able to actually go ahead and predict the future. So I wanted to just share with you a few supply management tools that we are actively using right now. And actually, I started in procurement 14 years ago. So back then, I started to work for the Volkswagen Group at the head office in Europe. And I remember I had a buyer role. So you can imagine how many negotiations a day. You print out your PO, maybe 50 or 100 a day. You fold the letter, nicely put it in the envelope, and used to send it off. Do you remember these days? I mean, time just flies from that time. And then we had the fax, which got introduced. Wow, that was a big revolution. No more letter sending. And then the emails, the whole cell phone interaction, then the internet, ERP systems, cloud-based interaction, the power of e-commerce, and current digital technology. So innovations that we have at the moment, which are affecting our professions, AI, advanced analytics, and so on. And that very much, I would say, forms the future. This technological advancement, it's forming the future of procurement. And that's how I would say, okay, it used to be bit up Arkestro, and I still have Orchestra because I truly believe in that Orchestra I've been thinking about at the beginning. But of course, Arkestro, that's how it will form, and that's how we will be able to together shape what is to come in the field of procurement predictions. So let's find out what we will actually need to focus on as the next step. So it's truly important to have good transparency. Transparency is key. With the amount of suppliers that we are dealing with on a daily basis and which are feeding into our supply chain ecosystem, we need to have clarity. So understanding your whole transparency, being able to also respond to problems in real time, and maybe also to be able to anticipate and react ahead of time. Secondly, the ecosystem, so building that ecosystem. And according to PricewaterhouseCoopers research, which they just did on the rise of the Industry 4.0, 72% of all of their customers, they actually managed to transform their supply chain just over the last year into becoming more digital, becoming up to date. And that actually increased 4% of their efficiency and nearly 3% of their revenue. So with so many layers involved in the supply chain ecosystem, it's just really important to be able to have a more transparency, have a digital network, and this will actually bridge the gap between our supply and our demand. Thirdly, agility, so boosting your agility of their entire supply chain through the installation of digitized and fully integrated supply chain networks. Companies are able to respond to customer demands a lot more effectively and a lot more efficiently, and ultimately improving productivity. And last but not least, time. Time is essence. Above all, it's really important to understand how the businesses will be able to respond real time and ultimately improving just the whole experience between the manufacturers and the customers. So keeping in mind all these themes, what we've learned about, we need to just understand the power of e-commerce that we are very much involved in. And supply management has been required to find solutions for procurement of goods and services to meet customer demands. And it's actually interesting to see that the whole power of e-commerce, it really began in '91. And just by the end of the year, we are actually projected to hit 4.6 trillion US dollars. So in order to cope with this transformation, we need to have a good supply management system in place. And as we all know, at the moment, if we collaborate with all these different departments, with all these different stakeholders within our organization alone, we have just different systems. And simply these systems, they just don't collaborate with each other. They don't communicate. You simply cannot integrate some of the numbers from procurement or quality or logistics or even supplier data. And so it's difficult to determine clean data. What is clean data? How can we clean up our data? How can we have reliable data? And my previous employer, actually specializing on pharma, consumer goods, medical devices, they actually had a new initiative where they launched a master data team, specifically specializing on cleaning up our data. Because we realized that certain teams had some Excel sheets, Excel spreadsheets, others used some systems, so there was just no actual communication. So this is just important in order to maintain and have a proper supply management system in place. So in order to guarantee this, to have this strong system in place, we can also utilize certain technologies, and IoT is definitely a big one of them. Again, a giant network of I would say connected things, connecting devices with people, and it's been actually expected that by the end of the year there will be 26 billion devices connected with each other. So just on a broader scale, the IoT can be applied for certain smart shopping, smart cities, transportation networks. And I'm going to explain to you actually a fun example I came across yesterday. But also just for our profession, just some IoT operational features. So it can help us, it offers asset tracking. So if we have the IoT in place, we can control the quality of our of the delivery. We can have on-time deliveries. Secondly, vendor relations. So vendor relations, just enabling that better customer interaction, better supplier relationship management. Then we have forecasting, inventory, connected fleets, so the ships being able to communicate with each other, scheduled maintenance through smart sensors, being able to actually predict when the next maintenance in your production is due. And one funny example, maybe for the ones who have realized when you walked here to this beautiful location, just outside, there's an Amazon Go store. And just a perfect example of this IoT. You walk inside, you are suddenly faced with thousands of sensors. And there's no, I don't know if you've ever been, but you should definitely check it out just on the ground floor. And you walk inside, there's no clerk going inside, outside. You scan your hand or your phone and just really take what you want into your virtual buying basket. So just another idea for smart shopping. So one of the other tools, advanced analytics, so really a tool to help us focusing on projecting the future, what is required. Then AI, of course, the powerful tool that helps us to do tasks that are usually done by humans. And just some subsets of AI that we've heard about today. Again, ML, machine learning, which very much looks at all of the power of computers, them being able to learn automatically without any human intervention. Then the deep learning activities such as computer vision, speech recognition, and last but not least, location intelligence. So really being able to process meaningful insight of geospatial data. So really, after having heard all of that, starting with our orchestra, after this incredible, powerful day from thought leaders, it's really up to us to think, how is our job going to change? How is our profession going to change? How are we as conductors going to create the journey ahead of us? And for me, I'm particularly curious to understand what the future of procurement, the future of predictive procurement is all about. And actually for that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to ask up on stage some of you guys, some of the thought leaders. So if I could ask Edmund and Ben to come on stage. Please, we can have the music. Mike, Linda, Eloise, Dr. Frederick. Please join me, join our orchestra. Thank you so much for joining. Edmund, why not? Come on, he brought us all here together. So Edmund, you've been really such an inspiration to all of us. And thank you for bringing us all together. So I wanted to ask you, where do you see predictive procurement actually go in the next 5 years?
I think in the next 5 years, you'll see the rise of a KPI that will be for how much spend has a prediction associated with it. Mm-hmm. I think people will actually measure and track the amount of prices that they have a prediction associated with before the agreement is finalized. And I think that you will also have a KPI for fully touchless purchase orders. And people will want to have that increase over time. And finally, I think that you will incorporate more elements of the cycle. So I think inventory is going to, and demand planning is going to come in more and more. And anytime you see a data silo, I think you have an opportunity for predictive procurement orchestration. So those are my predictions.
Wonderful answer. Thank you so much for sharing. And why don't we just go into our next question, Dr. Eloise, if I may. If I may. So we have had a lot of conversations today just about different aspects of procurement. And maybe just a short answer from you I know it can be long, so I'm respectful of you, of the great networking afterwards. But what are your major takeaways?
My colleagues never let me answer questions because I can end up talking for an hour. What I will say, the main takeaway is people. It really is about people, because what you see with what Edmund and team have built changes how we do procurement. And if there's one takeaway, it's the skills and the people. How's that?
Why doesn't Mike just continue? What is your takeaway?
Well, that's a great answer. That's a tough one to follow. How could I end up following Dr. Eloise? For me, there's been a lot of talk about thought leadership. You're a Thought Leadership Council member. I am as well. I think you have been, right? It's a lot of thought leadership, right? And I think Arkestro has shown us great thought leadership. I think we've seen many presenters here this week who talked about the thought leadership and the things that they're doing. But I was taken with the people I talked with, all you out in the crowd, at dinner, at happy hour, having the cocktails, which was great. All the thought leadership I got back from them and just hearing what they said. And then I take that all in and I always kind of come back to, and I tell my team this too, this is all great, but now what are we going to do to get real about this? What of this thought leadership are you going to take away, go home with, and plug it in? And it can't be everything. It's got to be some elements of this that you can build upon. So that's what I think about.
Thank you so much, Mike, for sharing. And I would actually love to just get Linda's know-how. Just what do you have to add to that?
Well, I've been talking about sort of the future of procurement for 7-8 years now, to the extent where I've been pushing no touch, I've been pushing AI, I've been pushing everything should be so automated that procurement's job, our job, our profession, should be focused more around strategy. And so finally, over the last few years, even during COVID, seeing lots of new suppliers and new providers in the space, I was very disappointed, because there was no open API. There was no easy way of engaging with end users, and there was no actual in-app dashboarding and analytics. Finally, I'm actually excited about what Arkestro is going to be able to do for us. So maybe it is true, our future is coming now. So I'm looking for Arkestro to help get us to that no-touch space or that phase, so that we can have time to be able to strategize on how we can attack the liminal space and own it for ourselves.
I can follow that. Well, I'm probably a younger procurement professional, so honestly, I'm excited to just follow you all and bring that back to my team, because it's really important to just show that there is a large following and there is a large crowd, because sometimes we get pushed down, and we want to really voice what we can bring to the table. So.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Next question, Ben. Ben, so technologies like AI, ML are really about solving challenges. Where do you see them being solved in the future?
Well, I think if there's one thing we know about the challenges that procurement is already facing today, it's that this problem of, there's so much data. We're drowning in data. That is not going away anytime soon. It's only going to get worse. And that's, of course, where technologies like machine learning, as we've seen today, can really play an important role in helping make that data accessible to the end user and to our procurement users. A technology I'm specifically really excited about is deep learning. I think there's tremendous applications. If you just look at something like NLP, which is a technology that Eric and I talk frequently about, I think we're really just scratching the surface of machine learning and specifically deep learning's impact on procurement as a discipline. So I'm really excited to see how that evolves.
Thank you so much, Ben. And just the final words from Dr. Frederick.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is great to be back in New York, in the city that never sleeps. Thank you, Edmund, for your kind invitation. I think now it's time to reflect on what we have done and how the future will
Will evolve
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
I think no time to waste. Let's get it done. I'm wishing you happy networking showtime.
Thank you.
That was great.
So thank you so much for joining me on stage. You may go back to your seats, but really it's also for you guys. I mean, it's really for us to change the future, to understand what supply management in the future is all about, and it's just mission critical to our business. So thank you so much for listening, for your time, and it's over to you, Stuart.
Charlotte, come on, give her a
You
round
got
of
it.
applause. That was fantastic. Thank you so much.